They are, we're getting a, excuse me, a slight increase in the number of doses that we'll be getting to the state.
E ao mesmo tempo, nós não vamos parar por aí. Já estão encomendados. Bem que eu pedi uma pastilha. Já estão encomendados.
Начинают поливать, поэтому буду говорить максимально быстро, или я помазун, и я становлюсь еще мокрее и мокрее. Давай продолжаем свой... Красота! Ну вот, все равно продолжаю свой...
All right, let me ask you something. You ever watch the news and think to yourself, there is absolutely no way that just happened on live television? That moment where your jaw physically drops, your hand flies to your mouth, and you just sit there staring at the screen like your brain needs a second to reboot? Yeah, we all have. And here's the thing, those moments, the networks desperately wish they could scrub them from existence. They'd love nothing more than to pretend the whole thing never aired. But we live in the age of DVRs, screen recordings, Reddit threads, and YouTube mirrors uploaded 47 times before the original even gets taken down. You cannot hide from the internet. Not anymore. Not ever again. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going deep, and I mean deep, into the vault of television's most catastrophic, most unhinged, most beautifully chaotic moments ever caught on a live broadcast. These are the clips that interns got fired over. These are the segments that made producers age 10 years in real time. These are the bloopers, the meltdowns, the accidental confessions, and the interviews so spectacularly wrong that entire PR teams had to be assembled just to do damage control afterward. So buckle up, grab whatever snack you've got nearby, and let's get into it, because this is going to be a ride. Let's start with the people who are supposed to be the calm, composed, unshakable faces of live television, the news anchors. These are trained professionals. They go through years of broadcast school. They practice diction, posture, pacing, and delivery. They are groomed specifically to handle pressure. And sometimes, gloriously, wonderfully, they fall apart completely in front of millions of viewers, and there's not a single thing anyone can do about it. One of the most documented forms of anchor chaos is the teleprompter failure. And if you've never witnessed one in real time, let me paint you a picture. The anchor is mid-sentence, confident, controlled. Everything is running smoothly, and then the screen freezes, or skips, or starts scrolling at triple speed. And suddenly the person who is paid to project authority and reliability is standing there in front of a camera with the kind of expression you make when your Wi-Fi drops right before an important meeting. The internal panic is invisible for about 2 seconds. Then it is very, very visible. What makes these moments so fascinating isn't just the malfunction, it's the recovery attempt. Some anchors will power through. Some of the all-time greatest guest disasters involve people who were not politicians, not experts, and not celebrities, just regular members of the public who got pulled into a segment and decided to say exactly what was on their mind with absolutely no filter whatsoever. Street interviews are a particular minefield for this. A reporter goes out to get a quote, something clean and usable for the 6 o'clock broadcast, and instead gets handed a grenade. A child who has clearly not been briefed on social norms says something devastatingly blunt to a news anchor's face, and then looks completely unbothered by the aftermath. A man on the street, when asked for his thoughts on rude behavior in public spaces, effectively endorses his own rude behavior in public spaces with such calm self-awareness that the reporter doesn't even know how to respond. These are the moments that get shared. These are the moments that live forever. Let's talk about cooking segments for a second, because I think they deserve their own dedicated section in the Hall of Fame of live TV disasters. On paper, a cooking segment is one of the safest bets in daytime television. It's visual, it's sensory, it's warm and accessible and universally relatable. Everyone eats. Everyone has opinions about food. It should be foolproof. It is not foolproof. The thing about cooking segments is that they require the host to interact with actual physical objects in real time. Not just talk, not just read off a prompter, but touch things, taste things, describe things, and occasionally identify things, while also maintaining eye contact with the camera, keeping track of what the guest chef is saying, and remembering that somewhere out there, millions of people are watching them try to look like they know what they're doing in a kitchen they've never cooked in before in their life. The ingredient identification problem alone has produced some of the most genuinely funny live television ever broadcast. A host reaches for something. The chef says the name of it. The host nods confidently. And then, in a pause that lasts just a fraction of a second too long, you can see in their eyes that they have no idea what they just agreed to. They hold the vegetable like it is a foreign object, discovered at the bottom of a bag. They look at it. They look at the camera. They look at the chef. They repeat back whatever name was just given to them with the specific tone of voice of someone who is absolutely going to Google this the moment the segment is over. And then there are the chefs themselves, who are not television people. They are kitchen people. The audience participation moments are where game shows become truly unpredictable. A member of the public is asked something simple, something designed to be charming and light, and to fill maybe 30 seconds of airtime, and they answer in a way that makes the host freeze for just a moment before the professional smile kicks back in. The unfiltered public, given a microphone and a camera, and the sudden heady rush of being on television, will sometimes say the absolute last thing that anyone in that room was expecting. And because it's live, because the feed is going out to however many thousands or millions of households, there's nothing to be done except laugh and move forward and hope that the clip doesn't end up on the internet. Sports broadcasting has its own catalog of legendary disasters. The commentator who loses track of what's happening on the field and confidently describes the wrong play. The sideline reporter who gets caught in the background of someone else's shot doing something that defies easy explanation. The post-game interview, where the player says something so candid and unfiltered that the reporter has to decide in real time whether to follow up on it or just wrap up and throw it back to the desk. These are the moments that remind you that sports broadcasting is essentially chaos, reporting with occasional moments of actual sports. Rugby, football, basketball, cricket, doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter the country. The sports broadcasting disasters are universal because athletic competition produces extreme emotion, and extreme emotion combined with a live microphone and a camera pointed at your face produces television history. Players who say things they immediately regret, coaches who forget the camera is still rolling, commentators who accidentally let something slip that reveals far more about their actual opinions than they were professionally obligated to share. The sports world has given us some of live television's most genuinely shocking moments, and long may it continue to do so. If you want to understand why morning television is such a reliable source of disasters, you need to understand the conditions under which it is produced. These shows begin broadcasting at hours that most human beings consider the middle of the night. The hosts have been awake since before dawn. They are running on coffee and adrenaline and a level of professional cheerfulness that should probably be studied by scientists. They are expected to be informed, engaging, funny, warm, and composed, simultaneously, about every topic from international conflict to celebrity gossip to what's in season at the farmer's market, all before most of their viewers have had breakfast. Under these conditions, the miracle is not that things go wrong. The miracle is that anything goes right at all. Morning television co-anchors are particularly fascinating to watch when things start falling apart, because the relationship between morning show hosts is one of television's great unexamined dynamics. They spend more time together than most married couples. They have inside jokes that the audience can't quite decode. They cover for each other's mistakes with a practiced smoothness that only comes from doing the same live broadcast together approximately 250 times a year. But every now and then, in the middle of a segment about something completely innocuous, a survey, a trend piece, a fluff segment about sleeping habits, one of them reveals something personal that they absolutely did not intend to reveal on camera, and the other one has to make a split-second decision. Do I cover for them, or do I let this breathe? The good ones let it breathe just long enough to be funny, and then move on gracefully. The great ones make it into a moment that the audience will talk about for a week. The overshare is morning television's greatest recurring gift. It happens because the hosts are tired. It happens because the segment feels casual and low stakes. It happens because somewhere between the second and third hour of a live broadcast, the line between talking to the audience and having a conversation with a friend starts to blur in ways that the legal department would prefer it didn't. An anchor admits they're addicted to their phone. A host confesses they haven't actually tried the recipe they just told everyone to make. A co-anchor asked a standard question during a completely standard segment gives an answer that makes their co-host whip around with an expression that says, very clearly, "We're going to have a very long conversation about this after the show." There is a specific type of live television disaster that belongs entirely to the era of call-in shows and live phone participation, a format that, when you really think about it, is one of the most audacious things television ever attempted. You are literally opening a live phone line to the general public and broadcasting whatever comes out of it. You are trusting that the person on the other end of the line is going to say something that is broadly acceptable for broadcast. You are betting, every single time, that this particular stranger has read the room and understood the assignment. Sometimes they have not read the room. Sometimes they have not even opened the room. The call-in disaster has a very specific anatomy. The host introduces the caller by name and location with a warmth that suggests this is going to be exactly the kind of thoughtful contribution the segment is looking for. The caller says something that could be construed, charitably, as an attempt to engage with the topic. And then, with no warning whatsoever, the caller says the second thing, and the second thing is so far outside the bounds of what anyone expected that the host's face goes through about 4 different expressions in under 2 seconds. The polite acknowledgement, the confused processing, the dawning comprehension, and finally, the desperate pivot to the next segment. What makes these moments so enduring is that the callers are almost never malicious. They are just saying what they think, with genuine conviction, into a telephone, live, on television. There is no editor. There is no delay long enough to catch everything. There is just a person, a phone line, and however many hundreds of thousands of people watching at home who are suddenly choking on their morning coffee. Modern live television has added a whole new category of disasters that previous generations of broadcasters simply did not have to worry about. Technology failures. And not just teleprompter failures, though those remain classics, but the full spectrum of modern broadcast technology, finding new and creative ways to fail at the worst possible moment. The graphic that goes up wrong. The cheerin', the text at the bottom of the screen, that contains a typo so spectacular that the entire conversation suddenly becomes about the typo. The live shot from the field that freezes at the exact moment the reporter is making their most animated facial expression, locking them into a look of pure television horror for everyone to screenshot and immortalize. The background graphic that someone forgot to change. So the anchor is explaining one story while a completely unrelated image floats cheerfully behind their head. These are the disasters that happen not because of anything the on-air talent did, but because somewhere in the building, a technical decision was made that proved to be catastrophically incorrect. Remote guests have added an entirely new dimension to this category in recent years. Video calls, satellite connections, and digital feeds have introduced a level of technical unpredictability that makes the old teleprompter failures look quaint by comparison. The slight delay that causes 2 people to start talking at exactly the same time, repeatedly, for what feels like an eternity, neither willing to be the one to stop first. The audio that cuts in and out at the precise moment someone is saying something important, leaving the audience with something that sounds vaguely like a complete thought, but is definitely missing a key word. The connection that drops entirely, leaving the anchor staring at a frozen frame of their guest in an expression that is either deeply thoughtful or deeply confused. It is impossible to tell. Some of the greatest live TV disasters don't come from technical malfunctions or accidental overshares. They come from interviews. Specifically, from the collision between what an interviewer expected the conversation to be and what the person being interviewed decided it was actually going to be. Celebrity interviews are their own ecosystem of potential chaos. A publicist has almost certainly briefed the celebrity on what to talk about and what not to talk about. The interviewer has a list of approved topics and a rough idea of where the conversation should go. And then the camera turns on, and the chemistry between 2 people is either there or it isn't, and no amount of preparation can manufacture it or prevent the disaster that happens when it's very, very not there. The interview that goes wrong in slow motion is a particular art form. You can see it happening from a mile away. The body language shifts slightly. The answers get shorter. The host starts laughing a little too hard at things that aren't quite funny enough. The guest starts looking at something off camera with the expression of someone calculating how long until they can reasonably escape. And the whole thing just deteriorates. Politely, professionally, in front of everyone. Then there is the interview subject who decides, for reasons known only to them, that honesty is the best policy. Full, unfiltered, complete honesty, regardless of what that does to the segment. The person who answers a simple softball question with something so unexpectedly real and raw that the entire tone of the broadcast shifts. The guest who, when asked about their experience with something difficult, just tells the truth about it with a directness that the interviewer was not remotely prepared for. These moments, chaotic as they are, sometimes produce television that is actually worth watching, not because it's a disaster, but because something real broke through the surface of a format that is usually designed to prevent exactly that. Here's what strikes me about all of these moments, every single one of them, when you line them up and look at them together. They are all, fundamentally, about the same thing. They are about the gap between what television pretends to be and what it actually is. Television pretends to be controlled and curated and perfectly managed. It pretends to be a smooth, professional operation where everything goes according to plan and every word is chosen and every moment is intentional. And sometimes it is all of those things. But sometimes, and these are the moments that last, the moments that get clipped and shared and watched 100 times, the pretense slips. The human being underneath the broadcast shows through. The kid says the thing nobody was supposed to say. The anchor loses the script and has to just be themselves for a few seconds. The politician forgets the talking point and accidentally tells the truth. The guest says exactly what's on their mind because they forgot for just a moment that they were on television. And weirdly, those are the moments people actually remember. Not the perfectly executed segments, not the flawless interviews, not the scripted, rehearsed, focus-grouped, media-trained moments of professional television perfection. The moments people remember are the ones where something real happened, by accident, in front of a camera, and nobody could take it back. So yeah, the networks wish they could delete these clips. They genuinely do. But the rest of us? We're really glad they can't. If you made it to the end of this one, drop a comment with the most unhinged live TV moment you've personally witnessed, because I know you've got one. Hit the like button if this one had you. And subscribe if you want more content diving into the moments that media would rather you forgot.